Hello, everyone. How are you? We're excited to be here. Listen, Dr. Thelwell here with me. Well, some of y'all just call her Jenny, but today she's Doctor. Today she's Doctor. Super excited to have you guys with us today. I know it's been a while. Ebony, you haven't been live. I know. I'm not doing it anymore. This is different. We're in a new phase, new stage. And so I'm going live with intention. And so today I'm excited to talk about how I got here. And a lot of people look at this question. Maybe you're new, maybe you just came around. And the title of my book that I just released is called How Did I Get Here? If you're unsure, it's right here and right here. Thank you so much, Dr. Thelwell, for joining me. I greatly appreciate you for taking some time to spend with me today as we kind of talk about the process, what it's looked like, what it means for people to go through this process. I've had quite a few people ask me, well, Ebony, how did you do it? I need some help. I'm not sure. So I wanted to, not only talk about my side of the process, but give you an opportunity to talk about the headache that I caused on the on the opposite end of the process, asking 1,000 questions. So before we jump in, the big whoop-de-doo today, I know I said that I was going to be announcing something special. So the something special that's happening today is that the ebook is listed online for 99 cents. 99 cents. Okay. So if you or anyone you know reads books digitally, I want you to head to Amazon and grab a copy of the book for what? 99 cents. You cannot go wrong. You cannot go wrong grabbing wood. And maybe you're saying, well, Ebony, I bought a book, I pre-ordered. I get it. Yes, you did. However, I would love for you to go ahead and purchase the extra copy. You never know what you're going to need it for, but I need you to go ahead and purchase an additional copy. Why do you say? Because it's a purchase with a purpose. Okay. A purchase with a purpose. And so I would love for you and anyone you know to go ahead and grab a copy of the book for 99 cents. So we're going to jump into questions and you'll see some things as we go along that'll help remind you why we are here. So let's start with the beginning of the process, Dr. Thelwell. What is it? What's the number one thing I'm going to talk about me first, but writing, like the writing process. I talked about it a little bit, in my video when I initially talked about like the process. When you start writing, what is it? What's the number one thing you see writers encounter the most when they start the writing process? What is it?
That's a good question because a lot of writers, they think that because they started their journal, that's all they need. Oh, I'm just going to keep writing and I'm going to fill my journal up and I'll be ready for a book. But can you imagine how many places your mind takes you, how many thoughts you have in just when you're thinking about just one situation? And so as they're writing in their journals, it's all over the place. So one of the things that I like to tell my clients is to always think about your chapters. Think about what you really want to put in your book, whatever it may be. It may be a memoir. It may be, how to do something, whatever your niche is, whatever you're writing about. You want to have chapters so that it's in order, and then you can go in your journal, right? Chapter 1 is about X, Y, and Z, and now I know what chapter 1 is about. You know what chapter 1 is about, and so you can stay organized in some way. It's still going to be a little unorganized because you'll still go all over the place about that one thing, but at least we know that chapter 1 is all about this right here. And we're not going to find things about chapter 1 in chapter 9 all over the book, all over. So there has to be a method to your madness. So There's still some organization. You don't have to know everything. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be well organized to the T from the beginning, but you at least want to have your discussion in order by naming your chapters.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So Jenny knows that I thought I was gonna use all my little notes that I had, and that
All over. A note at work, a note here. Oh, I have some other ones over there. Oh, I started this journal over here.
then I
I'm
had
like,
to
no,
go
no, no,
searching
ma'am.
for him.
One
I
of
had
those
to go
stuff.
searching for him. I was like, oh wait, where did I put that note? Oh wait, where what was that about? And so I agreed that at least having some structure, like a little foundation of, okay, I want to write a book. I want to write a book about this, and these are the areas that I want to cover, because until I did that, I really wasn't able to finish.
Mhm.
I knew that I wanted to write a little bit about my life, and have an opportunity for my life to have an impact on others, and for them to be able to understand how to utilize what they heard to be able to move forward in their own lives. Okay, that sounds really great. But now, what areas of their life do I want to focus on? And
Right.
so, for those of you who have already grabbed the book, I greatly appreciate you. I've been receiving some comments and some feedback about everything, and those are always great. But in that beginning process, I wasn't really sure where I was going.
And I would like to say, I'm very, very proud of you. You really dug deep. You spread your wings, to be able to really understand what it is that you wanted to write about, because we started off one way, but we ended up totally different. And that was okay, because the thing is, sometimes we feel like we know what we want to talk about, we know exactly what we want to write, but once you start digging into those emotions, you start digging into your brain and start remembering all of this stuff, it could turn into something else, and that's okay. You were supposed to do that. It's normal. It's supposed to happen. And if it changes the direction of where you wanted to go with your book, it takes some time to sit back and think about those things, but you did that. You were frustrated with yourself because, if y'all know Ebony, everything is going,
Perfectionist.
even to start right now, she was like, no, no, we have to start on time and all this stuff. And we're both military, right? So I get it. I know I'm gonna hurry up to wait, because that's usually what the military does. You hurry up and wait. Um, but no, she was like, if you're on time, you're late. I'm like, yes, I know. I need to log into Facebook. Hold on. So that's exactly how she was with the book, right? If it didn't go exactly how she imagined it at first, it was a struggle to get her to calm
It
down.
was devastating.
Okay. Your life is not over. This is the process, because there's gonna be parts of your book that's gonna make you sit on your behind and think, for real, do I really want to share this? What's my purpose of sharing this? So congratulations, I'm so proud of you. You stayed on topic, you stayed on your goal, and you are an author now.
Yeah.
And I think it's more than just being an author, right? Because that's just a title. But what your work will do for others, the words in that book, we can't put a price on it. So
Man,
congratulations.
man, I greatly appreciate that. She is not lying. I didn't really understand how much of a perfectionist I was until I started this process. How much, this is something that we all can learn from, this desire to control every element of our life, every element of who we are, control every element of every process. And that's just unrealistic, especially for those of us who are saying, I love God. I am walking in my faith. I trust him to do what he says he's going to do. But do you really? Are we really able to give full control over not only just to him, but to the processes that he's guiding? And I know I wrote this book with the Father, and I know that he has a lot of intent and purpose and healing he's designed through my words. But in the beginning, and even down to the last couple of weeks, I struggled to relinquish that control of, Ebony, you gotta wait on the process. You gotta let it go the way, because it took me about a year and a half. Well, I started writing the book in 2020, and then um, let's see, 2022, towards the beginning, maybe towards the middle, I finished writing the book. But then there's this process after the writing that a lot of people don't. They think, oh, I'm going to write a book, and then I'm going to write a book, and this book is just going to go out into the world. Oh yeah. And
Mm,
that was not it, y'all. That was not it. Writing the book was the easiest part. Writing the book,
yeah.
because of course after you write the book, it's like she said, those ideas and those thoughts are kind of all over the place, and so then you have to get into editing. And so Dr. Thelwell, talk a little bit about the editing process, because I think people like to skip over this part like it doesn't exist.
And it is the most gruesome part, I feel, especially sitting on this side of the book. Um, I really try. It's a conversation that we have to have over and over, um, with our client. As the publisher, as the editor, how many times did we talk? We spoke so many times because I want to capture your voice. Because sometimes, you wrote things in your book that I may interpret a certain way. If I don't know you, if I haven't had that conversation with you, then I might be okay with just changing, or kind of changing the tone, not changing what you said, but the tone. And that could come across in a way that's not how you intended. So that the process of editing is so crucial, because you want the author's voice to come across exactly how they intended to come. And so I don't want to ever change the tone to a way that is not what you intend for your audience. So yes, every part of that book had to be edited, and I went and we did line editing. So every single line was edited. And I think it's very important to ensure that that happens, not only just for grammatical errors, or you know um anything that goes with editing that's obvious, but again, the tone. You want to make sure that your audience is getting exactly what you're saying, and it's your voice. I don't ever want to change your work into my voice, because we have different experiences, we have different backgrounds. So I might say something, maybe even meaning the same thing you're saying, but using totally different words. And that's not what I want to do, because your audience knows you, right?
Right.
And whoever doesn't know you is going to get to know you through your work, through that book, and they still need to hear your voice, not mine. So it's very important that I had those conversations with you over and over again, so that I can understand where you're coming from, where you're at, and where you're going. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it
think
was
that's a
a
big part
long
too.
process. Yeah,
It
yeah.
was
She,
long.
she thought that when she was done writing, that was it. No, the work just began, sis.
Listen, I mean, it was a long. I got to the point I was like, I'm sick of reading.
Yeah.
I don't want to read this anymore. She's like, oh, I made a correction. Okay, it's cool.
Hmm.
I just got to the point. She's like, you don't want to read it? Nope. Just it's fine. And I think the other part was too. We kind of talked about this. I didn't want people to find errors while they're reading the book, and I found one, y'all. I found one, and I can't change it. Not right now, at least. But I did. I found one, and I was like, oh, you know. But
Hmm.
some things will be missed. It's okay, because when you're going through the editing process, you know, first there's operator error. Maybe we, read something or skip over some mistake. But then there's also the autocorrect error. That they change a word because it means the same thing, or it's spelled the same or whatever. And so sometimes that happens, and the perfectionist in me wanted to like reread every line so I could make sure the words and phrases were correct. And y'all, it was exhausting. It was exhausting to do that. And while I was working on my doctoral degree, one of the things one of my professors told me, they were like, Ebony, you're going to exhaust yourself trying to read every page. I remember one of my professors just called me because he was like, why are you so behind? Why is it not where? I'm like, I'm trying to read all this stuff and I don't have time to read. And he was like, Ebony, you have to learn how to skim. You have to learn how to absorb and retain content by skimming. And I mean, it was a skill that I had never learned before until I started working on my doctoral degree. And that thought came back to my mind when I had to continue reading my book over and over again. I was like, okay, Ebony, you're going to have to skim the book if you want to finish, because one of the things Dr. Thelwell would say all the time is if you keep reading it, you'll keep changing it. Like you'll read something that you want to change. She was like, and we ain't changing. We not going
Nothing.
to change because
We
the
know where
thoughts
we're going.
are changing.
We know exactly where we're going. We're gonna stick to it. I know I've spoken to you enough to know what you want, and this is what we're gonna do. And it's true. And it's so important to teach what we learn. And I'm a teacher at heart. I talk about this all the time. Being the oldest out of all of my siblings, I was automatically a teacher, even if I didn't want to be, right? And so when I wrote my book, I ensured like to just write down all of these things that I learned in the process. And it's true. And I wrote my book and I sat on it and I didn't look at it again. I didn't publish it, but it was done. I had already edited it. I did everything I needed to do. I just needed to put it out to the world. And I wasn't ready to put it out to the world. So when I came back to it months later, did I write that sentence like that? Oh, look at that sentence structure. I should say this way, because we're growing, right? Every second of the day we're growing. If you're not growing, you ain't here. We here, right? So every second of the day you're growing, you're learning, you're watching something on TV, you're reading a book, you're talking to your coworker, you're talking to your friends, you're talking to your parents, and you're just learning all of this stuff. So you're going to say things differently a million times. So if you keep going back to that book without putting it out, you're going to want to continue to change it with the new things that you have learned. And so write the book, get it edited, and put it out. Do not continue to go back and forth with it. Let it sit for months, and you're going to want to rewrite the whole thing. And you don't want to write a book twice, the same book twice.
Right.
So,
No, I absolutely agree, because especially with me starting to write the book in 2020 during a pandemic, there were so many different emotions, so many different things going on at that time. And because of some of the things in the book, I took a break. I wrote about, things that, were definitely a challenge to write about at times. And I stepped all the way away from the book. And it like, I want to say almost a year.
yeah.
Almost a
Wow.
year. And when I came back to it, I think one day I just text her. I was like, "Hey, I wrote something," and she was like, "Oh, oh, you're back writing again." And she was like, "Okay, this time you need to finish. Like,
Mhm.
this time let's complete it." And that's one of the big deals to me, and it's even something that I put in the you know thank yous, because I wanted to finish. There are so many things just throughout life that I didn't finish, that I didn't complete, and I wanted to make sure that this was on the list of finished things. It doesn't mean that I never finished anything. There's a whole degree right here. There's a whole degree up there. There's, tons of things that I've done and I've completed them, but I wanted this on the finish list. And
Mhm.
so I think that when you figure out, you know, what is it that I want to finish? What is it that I really want to say? And you kind of become determined to do that thing, whatever that thing is. I think it'll thrust you into completion, because I want it not only for myself, but I wanted my children, to see, oh, mommy finished this, mommy published this book. And any of you guys who watched the video where I opened the package for my first book know that I grabbed a book and I pulled it out of the container, and I asked, I was all surprised and everything. And I asked my son, I said, "Do you know what this is?" And he said, "It's a book." I said, "Do you know whose book it is?" He said, "It's mommy's book." And so
Mhm.
just to have that response from my son of completion, because it's physically here, it's tangible for him to see that mommy did this. And so, that was a really big deal to me, to just be a finisher. And I think that all of us have a desire to complete some things. And this was one of the things, on my list. So, I can't I can't, talk about that enough. The ability and the capability and the desire to want to complete things and to want to finish something. And so,
Mhm.
that being, completing a book, you write, you edit, and then what you got to do?
Finish.
Format and design.
Oh
Format and design. When I tell y'all, when we finished editing, I was like, yes,
yeah.
we're done.
She
Let's
was
put
so
the book.
ready to be done, y'all. She was so ready to be
We're
done. I'm
done.
over here just I know the process. So I'm like, yeah, we're gonna do this. If this happens then we could do this. If you take longer here, then we might have to wait for the next project that we got some other projects going on and they have to do that and my team is working on this. So if we don't finish it by here, we might be second in line on the next step. And she
Right.
was just like, what? I was like, yes, we're not done.
We're not done.
We're
And
not done.
listen, and that
You're
was the
you're
toughest
but you
part.
were done for the most part. I mean, what was the best part for you? Because there's got to be a favorite part for you.
I think my favorite part was, I think my favorite part was the design, like designing. I didn't really care for formatting, but just the design, walking through the process of figuring out what I wanted the cover of my book to look like. Y'all, I started somewhere.
Totally
I
different.
started
Let me
somewhere
see. Let me see
totally
where your
different.
book, the front of your book now. Show
Okay.
it.
So this is the front of the book now.
Nothing. This was nothing like what she thought about.
This was
Nothing.
nothing. I thought about having this silhouette of a woman, you know, and I had so many thoughts. I was like, well, I don't want it to be a person. I don't want people to be able to identify the person. I just want it to be a silhouette, and I want them to be, girl.
You
It
got
was
a
a
whole
no.
tree.
It was a no. And so when I asked the question, how did I get here? I kept thinking about, you know, no one, I kept thinking about it being relatable to every person, you
Mhm.
know, no matter where you are in life, who you are, what you've done, like for every person to be able to relate to it. And I finally got to the point where I realized if I put a person here, then it'll identify with a person. But if we got to this point, and I didn't even pick this, the designer, he provided like a couple, he was like, look, let me just give you some stuff to, because
And
I,
that I think that's important, right? Because we're stuck on what we see, what we think, what you know, and that's good because that's our starting point. That's where everything starts, where the magic begins to happen. But when you look at someone else and you say, "Hey, this is what this book is about. This is what I want my audience to get from the book. This is my idea. What do you think?" They get a totally different idea in their minds,
yes.
and then you can compare their idea with your idea and really make it make sense, right? Really make it to the point where you can see why they thought that way. And that's exactly what happened.
That's
That's exactly what
exactly
happened.
what happened. He provided me, he was like, because I was trying to give all these ideas, and he was like, well, let me just give you a couple of things. And when he gave them to me, the image, let me keep holding this so y'all,
Mhm.
the image that he chose, oh, this somebody book, y'all, sorry. This they little flap, so I don't forget who it belongs to. This, oh, and let me sidebar. I know y'all see all these books. These are so I know some people were messaging me asking me if I have more books. Not yet. They're on the way. The second batch has already been shipped. For those of you who purchased more books, the second batch has already been shipped. Thank you, Father.
That girl sold
The,
out.
the sold out. And these right here are already sold. These are people books who are coming to pick them up. Amen. So praise the Lord. So this cover was actually his favorite. He didn't tell me that. She didn't tell me that. But this cover was actually his favorite out of all the covers that he sent me. Y'all, he sent me one that it was like orange, and I was like, oh yes, I think this is the one that I love. And then I was like, well, can you put some grass or some dirt at the bottom so people fit? I want the symbolism of growing. And he was like, nah, that's not gonna That's not gonna look good. So he tried it for me. He was like, I just want you to see that this is not looking like you want, it's not giving what it's supposed to have gave. Okay. And so he had already decided that this was his favorite. And Jenny knew that. And so when I finally got back to this, she was like, I just want you to know that's what he picked from the beginning. I just
Yeah.
want you to know that this was what the designer had already selected and chosen.
Hmm.
And, when I talk about this book and I talk about how I got here, it's the question that I hope people ask when they see this tree in water. Like, how did this tree get here to this place where it's thriving amongst an element it shouldn't be in, which
Hmm.
is us, which is me right now, which is the reason I wrote the book. And that's the reason the subtitle is it's not a question of being lost, but a question of being found, because I'm not talking about being in a place where how did I get here? This isn't somewhere I want to be. This isn't somewhere that this is somewhere I'm unsure about. No, how did I get here to this place where I'm happy, where I'm capable of dealing with things, where I'm not so concerned about what people think, where I'm not, I got here by managing my expectations of people, by
Mm.
not expecting stuff from people that they're not capable of giving me, by not allowing the things that people say, people say, sticks and stones may hurt my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's a lie. Words do hurt. But
Yeah.
how did I get to the point where I didn't let the words penetrate? The words may hurt, but I'm not allowing the words to penetrate. It's like the word tells us that the weapons may form, but they don't prosper. So, how did I get to the place where the words may have formed? People may have said things may have happened to me, but I didn't allow them to prosper physically, mentally, emotionally. And so that's what this book is about. That's what this cover is about. Is a place where this tree, though in water, a place you wouldn't think it should be, is thriving. The leaves are green. It's not dying, it's not wiltering, it's not falling apart. It's looking like it needs to look the way God designed it to look amongst an element that it, wasn't expected to be in. And so that's how I got here, uh, concerning the cover. So,
Yeah. And what I like about, managing your expectations, what you're talking about in the book is that it's not just one-sided, because sometimes we feel like, oh well, it's my mom, so I should let certain things slide. Oh well, it's my brother or my sister or, my husband. No, it applies to everybody, because you're you first. You're supposed to be first, right? Because you can't have a relationship with just one other person and you're not present, you're not active, you're not responding. So you have to take care of you first, and I always go back to this. People love to say, oh, my husband is my better half or whatever. Like I really don't like that. I don't want my husband to be my better half. I'm a whole by myself. I
right.
need him to be a whole by himself. And then we have two whole people together, right? Because half and half, I know, you're
It's a
supposed to
half and half is milk.
join and
It's
become
not
one and all
really.
of that. It's cute. It sounds good. But no, I need you to be whole. I need you to do the work, because there's work to be done. We've all had, trials and tribulations. We've all been hurt before. And it's hard work, but you got to work
Yes.
on yourself, because I'm not trying to come in there work on me and on you. Right?
Hello.
But I really love that you're talking about that in your book. It's like, how am I managing where, my mom may be on her journey, and now while I'm going through my journey, I'm expecting her to do this, maybe she's expecting me to do that, but I'm not there, she may not be there. How do I deal with that?
Yeah.
Not getting what I feel like I should get, what I feel entitled to get.
And that's
Nobody,
good because one
nobody,
of the best
nobody owes
ways,
you nothing.
yes,
Nobody owes you nothing. You owe
that,
yourself everything.
and
And
that's, one of the best ways to take care of yourself is to grab a copy of the book for 99 cents over on Amazon right now. I'm gonna slide that in there.
yeah,
One of the best ways you can take care of you is by grabbing a copy of the book. And right now, you can grab a copy of the book for 99 cents. 99 cents over on Amazon. The link is there for those of you that are on YouTube and Facebook. Listen and share with other people. Text people, hey, will you grab this book for 99¢? I promise you it'll change your life. Tell everybody to grab a copy for 99¢. And so I do agree that, dealing with ourselves first is the most important. Sometimes we're trying to get people to understand us and we don't understand ourselves. We're trying to get people to love us and we don't know how to love ourselves. And all of that plays a certain role. Yes, Jake Jack. Of course, y'all know he like to jump in. But I think that when we spend the time getting ourselves together, then we can truly help other people understand us, which is why,
Mhm.
you know, learning to manage our expectation of ourselves is the first chapter in the book.
Mhm.
Talking about, because, and I didn't want to talk about anybody else first. We're talking about family, we're talking about marriage, we're talking about God, we're talking about work relationships. But I didn't want to talk about anything else first until we addressed ourselves,
Mhm.
because way too many of us are focused on the speck in someone else's eye and not the bark in our own. So,
Okay.
you know,
Come on, quotes. Like that.
that's scripture. That's scripture. So, but I think that we, get lost in,
Mm.
we talked about writing, we talked about editing, we talked about, format and design, but I think that one of the things that I do want to talk about is, all of those elements are part of the publishing process. And
Mhm.
so if you had to say which part of the publishing process is the most challenging from your end as the publisher, what part of it would you say is the most challenging?
I mean, after we get the editing, to me, the editing process is the most gruesome, bar none, by far. Um, because you have to look at it over and over again, and you know the story so well by then that it is easy to miss one thing or two. Um, but you have to continue to look at it because you want to make sure that it is what it's supposed to be. But as far as publishing, once we get to the formatting, um, it's really, after the editing is really piece of cake. It's a piece of cake for me. Um,
Who's sailing on your side?
Yeah, smooth sailing on my side. The editing is the longest. It's what keeps me up at night. It's what wakes me up in the morning. It's my weekends. It's time. You really have to put time into it. And but I enjoy it as well because just like any other book, when you read it the second time or the third time, you find there's something new in it,
Yeah.
right? So I kind of look forward to looking for that new thing that I may have missed the last time. um, so to me, editing is the
The
most
most
gruesome, but
challenging.
I think, yeah, it is. It's the most challenging, but I think it's also the most rewarding because I'm pretty much done after that. Then it's, the whole time while we're editing, you're still thinking about, the client, is still thinking about what that book is going to look like, what size you want the book to be, all of those things. So you're still going through the cutesy part of it while I'm
Right.
like working.
Right.
But I want the clients to be thinking about all of that because things change. And you might get a different idea. You might speak to someone, you might have seen something. I tell a lot of my clients to go to Barnes and Noble and look at the different covers from the front to back. There's so many things you can do now. I mean,
Woo.
the possibilities are endless. So go to Barnes and Noble, look through the aisles, go to the aisle where they have the type of book that you're going to put out. If it's a memoir, if it's an autobiography, if it's a whatever it is, go to that section of Barnes and Noble and look at what those covers look like.
Yeah, and I think that's really good because some of the things that I didn't think about for this process initially was, oh, well, what size book do I want? What do I, how many, what do I want it to look like on the pages?
Mhm,
What parts of this book are make good quotes,
mhm,
and I think those are things that when we're going through the writing process, sometimes we don't think about, but if I were to do it all over again, which I'm in the process of doing because I have like a couple other books in my mind. Um,
Element of surprise for me.
boom, we'll be sending you an email. And so I think that one of the things that I would do or am doing this next go around is bolding out some of the things that I think, oh man, that's powerful. So that as I walk through the process, the editor or the designer, really it's the designer, when I'm going through that formatting
Mhm,
process, of yeah, this is important to me. They don't have to question it because
mhm,
if you don't tell or show the designer what's important to you, they
mhm.
don't know because
Right.
they didn't write the book and really they're not reading the book. They're just making sure it looks good on the page. Unless they might be reading a line before or a line after, but they're not fully understanding the concept of your book. And I think that that's a process that was definitely new to me, was
Mhm,
that formatting process. How many words do I want on a page? Subtitles and titles on the page, fonts, what font looks
mhm,
good, what font is eye catching, and I think what people also don't realize is the cost difference for color and all of that. So talk
mhm.
a little bit about that as well, Jenny, because I think
Yeah.
some people don't realize that that's a part of the process.
Yeah, so black and white is usually not any color. However, when you're about to upload your book, like for example, we used Amazon. For Amazon, if you use anything but black and white, it automatically is a full colored book. So it's gonna charge you for that. And it's not a whole lot more, but if you're really looking at a book, and I'm talking about just one page, if you have just one page with a bunch of color in the interior of your book, it's gonna charge it as a colorful book. So we went through that actually because we wanted to put some green leaves on some of the pages, and it was gonna bump up the cost. Um and it just wasn't worth it because for some leaves, you know,
I should have put all the pages in pink at this point, if I was going to
yeah.
do something. So yeah,
Right, because it'll charge everything, the whole entire book as a color book. So when it's a novel, most of the time, and you don't have any pictures and it's just words, it's just smarter to just go with black and white and do something else, or
right,
just leave it like that. Even if we which we did put a tree or a leaf here and there, it was just black and white instead of green like we wanted at first.
right.
So that does make a difference. Just one colorful page would make your whole book a color book. So, yeah.
And I think that's a good thing to note too, because so many people want to write children's books,
Mm-hmm.
and children's books, are colorful and
Mm-hmm.
bright, and so those of you out there that want to write children's books, you know, I'm gonna be honest with you. You're not making no black and white children's book.
Right.
It's I don't know for sure how well it would sell. I mean, it would. Everybody's different. I'm not saying your words won't be great. I'm not saying the pictures won't be great. But if you want to be able to grab the attention of the children,
Mhm.
you would want the book to be in color. Even if you
And
just
yeah.
you stick men or something on the pages.
And it depends too if you what's the age of the children you're writing for, right? Because you could write a short novel and not really need too much color. You might have caricature or um even stick figures. We've seen that. But yeah, do you really need color? You need to write for your audience. You want to sell books, right? You need to write for your audience. So if your audience will do better with color, you got to go with color. And it's not like a whole lot more, but obviously, it's a couple dollars more than it would be just black and white.
Yeah, and I think that
Depends on
that's
the
what
on how many pages too.
that part. I think that's, and one of the things that I thought about the entire time I was writing my book was like, I want it to look like a book. And
Yeah.
what I mean by that is, I didn't want it to be like this thin, small book. I wanted it to look like a book. And I know some people are like, Ebony, what do you mean? Like, I wanted to stand up to other books on the shelves. And I think that's a part of when she says, okay, go look at the books, go walk
Mhm.
through Barnes and Nobles, and get a feel for what you really want your book to look like, and so for me, I knew I wanted my book to fit on the shelves with other
Mhm.
books, to fit in, standing up or whatever, that it, was compatible. I know they say comparison kills. However, in the book world, I think that that phrase is probably a little different,
Right.
but it was a big deal to me that my book looked good on the shelf, that
Mhm.
it drew the attention of someone walking by. And so originally, I was going to put myself on the cover, and I was like, mm-mm. I want someone, whether black, white, Hispanic, I didn't care who it was. I wanted them to be able to pick up the book with no judgment, with no question, with no. And so that's why I put myself on the back. I really didn't even want myself on the back. That was the designer and Jenny like, you need to put a picture back here. And I said,
Yeah.
I really didn't want it on there. I wanted people to just be able to pick the book up with no judgment, and
Well, and you're establishing yourself as an author. They need to still see who you are. So it's okay for you not to be on the front of the book. But you do need to I personally like to see, you know, the name to the face. I like putting it together. So and again, you're breaking into the industry. So you are your brand, and you need to have I said that you needed to. So she was like, fine. Yes.
because
Thank
I
you.
surely didn't want to. You hear me? I surely did not want to. But I think that, navigating this process just taught me so much about myself. Like,
Mm,
Ebony, yes, you really are a control freak. You gotta you gotta let go. And then too, it helped me really understand what I want,
yeah.
what I like, what I don't like, because I think so often we navigate life with, oh yeah, okay, that's fine. Okay, yes. But these things are definite. Like, you have
Mhm.
to say for sure, I like this, I don't. I want this, I don't. And I think so often we navigate life just not really making decisions, just
Mm,
saying okay to stuff, even if we don't like it, because, well, I won't have to see this person again. I won't have to deal with this again or whatever. But this book is around for forever. I'm going to
ev-
see it all the time, forever, forever, ever, forever, ever.
Mhm.
Okay, it's around for forever. Um,
And I
which
think
is,
that's the most beautiful thing about writing a piece, right? And publishing it. That is, when you're gone, it'll still be here. It's like your legacy that you're leaving behind. It is. It's part of your legacy.
yeah. And I think one of the other things that's really good to touch on, since we are mentioning that, is writer's remorse. Like, once you write it and it's out there to the world, and people start giving you feedback, and you say, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have. Oh, well, I'm not sure how people are going to feel about that. And that's, one of the things that I went through, probably almost immediately after putting it out, you know. But I had to realize that God breathed on me writing this book, and I
Mhm.
have an obligation as, you know someone he gave words to put them out there. And so being comfortable enough to accept, you know whatever people have to say once the words are out there, because you can't take them back.
Mhm.
And is that, do you think that that's something you experienced? Some of you may not know, I'm to the side, but this is one of the books that she has published as well, which is her own. And so do you think you felt that way after writing your book? Did you feel like you felt any writer's remorse?
I did, and like just like you, it happened almost immediately. And it is part of the reason why I sat on my book too, because I knew that I had things in there that I hadn't told anyone, um, especially my family members. And so mine was a memoir as well. So I'm talking of things that happened to me, and but not just that, it's not a sad book, it's more so this is what happened, this is how I dealt with it, and here's how you can too, type of book. And so that's exactly, when you're talking about yourself and you got other people in it. I didn't mention any names, but people are gonna feel some type of way. I had conversations with them before, the people who I could contact. So you know what they say is not, they really don't know. Even if you email someone or you text them, if they don't respond back, you really didn't tell them. You
Yeah.
heard that before? Yeah. So if I tried to contact some of the people in my book, and then but I never got a response. So I went along with my book because that's what I was gonna do. And they kind of got word of it before, after, right? After the book came out, and now all of a sudden they were available. But it's okay. We had the conversation anyways. Eventually they understand that it's my perspective, it's my life, it's what happened. It's okay. And I moved forward. But yes, I did feel like, dang, maybe I shouldn't have said this, or maybe, what would my daughter think about what I said in my book and what I've been through. Um, and it's all a teachable moment. I just use it as a teachable moment.
Yeah.
When she reads the book, we'll have a conversation, and it'll be hopefully she'll learn stuff from the book, and I'll be able to explain it to her. Sometimes you don't get that opportunity to explain certain things, right?
Right.
um but if the way when I put my book out, I read it again, which I was sick of it. Just like you, I didn't want to read it again anymore. Plus I didn't want to read it again because it stirs up everything up again, right? All of those emotions, where you were, what you were wearing at that time, who was around, what sounds were happening. I mean, it brings up everything. And some things were great, and I was happy in those moments. And then there's other things that I'm like, oh, I don't want to go through that dark piece today, which was another reason why it took me some time to write it, because there were chapters in the book where I was like, I'm gonna skip that one today. Let me move on to chapter 8, where I flourished. Right? We all like to say the great things, but if you know me, I'm not ashamed to say the bad things either. I'm quick to just be an open book, because and I really feel that I'm like that because I know what my purpose is.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have gifts and talents, and it's not for us. It's not for us. It's
You
for
have to be able
someone
to
else.
share with the world.
Is to share with the world. And so even when I have clients that I'm publishing, I feel like I sometimes sell myself short. Like I don't charge what I should charge or what other publishers are charging, stuff like that. But I feel like the reason I do that is because of my purpose, the purpose of why I even started Revolutionary Diamond Publishing in the first place. It wasn't really for me to become a millionaire. I'm not gonna become a millionaire off of it. Um, it wasn't to make money. It was to be the gateway. It was to be that bridge to help someone else tell their story. It was I just had a different purpose. I knew, and I truly believe, I think in every interview that I've had in my life, I always say the same thing. And I laugh about it because someone that was in my interview will come back and say, I was in the other interview when you did X, Y, and Z, and you said the same thing. I was like, I know, I always go back to the same thing. But it's so true. Like my whole purpose is to always learn, grow, 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 and then reach back out to someone else and pull them up with me. Because what I'm gonna do at the top by myself?
That part.
And people need help. Like I need help. I still need help. I feel like I don't know anything. And as you're propelling to another level, you're still gonna need help. But you're going up, and there's people down here. And I remember when I was down here and I needed help. So let me be that person. You want to tell your story? Let me be that person. Let me help you. And I'm not trying to charge you $5 million, because I ain't have $5 million. That's why I ended up doing it myself and learning the process. Now I want to teach other people the process, and let me help you get your story out there, because someone needs to hear it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think
Someone
that's
needs to
so
hear
good.
it.
Yeah, that's good because I think, so often, people are turned away from things just because of the cost. Um, and there's so many things in life that we're hesitant upon because of cost. But I think that if we, you know, you have to invest in yourself. I feel like when you get something for free, you don't value it.
Mhm.
You get something for free, you don't value it. So you do have to invest in yourself. And you have to decide, whether or not the investment is worth it. And
Mhm.
most of the time the investment is you. And so are
Right.
you worth it? Is
Right.
it worth you investing in yourself? And I would say absolutely yes.
Mhm.
Absolutely yes. I think that that is, just so so important. And so walking through this process, finishing this book, and even this back end of, writer's remorse, I love my family. I love my mom. I love my sister. I love, like, these are people that I love, and I would never want to do, say, write anything that would, hurt them. However, when I tell my story, they're included, and so it can be hurtful to bring things back up. It can be hurtful to hear it from my perspective. It can be hurtful. And I'm just like you, just wanting to have those conversations to say, I know that these things may be hard to read because they were hard for me to write.
Mhm.
Um, but let's talk about it. Let's have conversation about it. Let's move forward from this. It's not my intent to get here and
Mhm.
then find us in a place where we're back there.
Right.
And so I think that that's, a really big deal to me because I prayed over these words in these books.
Mhm.
I prayed over these words. I asked God for direction. I asked him for instruction. I asked for him to show me the way for people around the world. I want my book to be a global read for people to be healed across the nations. And so, in order for me to do that, I had to write the truth.
Mhm.
And sometimes the truth is hurtful. It was hurtful to me to write some of the things, and to bring them back up. But I know that also means that it'll be hurtful for some people to read, and not
Mhm.
even people in my family. I've had people not in my family who've messaged me and was like, "Man, I know this was hard to write."
Mhm.
And so I think when we, accept the fact that, my Instagram name is Truth Chaser, and there's a reason for that.
Mhm.
I'm constantly tracing out the truth, and I'm only going to share the truth. And, that's a big deal to me. So, those of you who are here, listen, go grab the book for 99 cents. Listen, 99 cents. 99 cents. Share it with every person you know for the next 2 days. I need you to go buy, share, share, share. Just start sending text messages, messenger messages, inbox messages for people to go and buy the book. Dr. Thelwell, anything you want to share before we wrap up?
No, I think we talked about a lot. I think that I'm sure some people have some questions, which would be fine. I'll go back and look at the comments if anyone has any questions for me. But yeah, I think this was great. I think it gave really good insight about the process from start to finish and how did you get here, right? And I think it was great.
Well, y'all heard it from her. It was good. And, I'm really grateful for Dr. Thelwell. We've known each other for a very long time. And so she can, be very direct with me. And so I know that I'm grateful for people that are around me that aren't yes people. And I'm not a yes person to them. You know, One thing that I love about Jenny, she gonna tell you the truth. And it might not be in a tone you want to hear it. It's like, nah, I don't think you need to do that, man. Don't do that. So
Listen, I
I'm
know some of my
always
friends are
grateful.
laughing right now. They know.
I love it because you need people who are going to be honest with you. And if you're surrounded by people who are just going to say yes to everything you do, you need to reevaluate because maybe it's you. Maybe
Yeah.
it's you who doesn't know how to receive the truth. Maybe it's you and you don't know how to, receive constructive criticism. But I
Mm,
would tell you that if you want to move forward in this world, if you want to progress to the levels that you desire to, you got to be around some people who are going to tell you no. You got to be around some people who are going to tell you the truth. You got to be around some people who love you enough to be honest, you
Amen.
know. And so I'm very, very grateful for Dr. Thelwell, who was
Hmm.
my personal truth teller. Girl, nah, don't write that. Girl, take this out. Take that out. That don't make sense now. Come
I don't
on.
care what you say. I'm taking this out right now.
She's like, this don't make sense. Delete. We're not putting this in there. So I'm very, very grateful for her honest heart, for her kindness, her patience, for her walking out literally the biblical truth, the scriptures of fruits of the spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. Because it's a challenge to walk in that. And so just like she's proud of me, I'm grateful for her because I absolutely could
Mhm.
not have done this without her. So I hope you all have enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for jumping in here with us. I feel like I should end this like Mommy Mondays, but those of you who remember that. So I'll end it in that same way. Father, we're thankful for the truth and clarity of your word, and that in all things that our minds would think of you, our eyes would see you, our mouths would speak of you, our ears would hear you, our hearts would beat for you, the blood flowing through our veins would be for you, our hands would be lifted to worship you, and we'll walk within the footsteps that you have designed. And anytime we lay down to rest, Father, that we'll awaken, refresh, renew, and restore. The best way to do that is to grab the book. Amen.
Amen.
Go grab the book for 99 cents and tell everybody you know that they might want to too. I love you all. Thank you so much for joining us and watching Jackson sleep. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.